There were some things in my 20s that I never thought I would struggle with in my 40s. There's nothing quite like getting out for a little walk. I just feel like I've got the whole of Weston-super-Mare Beach to myself right now, apart from dog walkers over there. But look at this. It's like I'm in the middle of nowhere. I love this. This is so nice. Just to be able to get away from everything and have a little bit of a chat with myself. I've been thinking about doing this for a while, and I don't know why I haven't done it before. I think I'll probably get onto that in some of the things I'm going to talk about now, but I'm just a regular guy in my 40s. Actually, I've only got like 10 months left of my 40s. And I must admit, I look back on my 40s, and you do this when you get to this age. We reflect quite a bit, don't we? Looking back at my 40s and thinking, you know, how did all that go? For the most part, I think it was pretty awesome. You do ask a lot of questions, and you do wonder whether some of the time that you spent, some of the things you spent doing were worth it, or whether it was worth pursuing certain things. But hey, you know, here I am. I'm still alive and well, and I've got a pretty good life, I think. You do weigh it all up, don't you? And you do analyze it, and you think, oh, could I have done things differently? But it is what it is. I've got to the stage where I've kind of stopped thinking about whether I could have done stuff differently, because of course you could do stuff differently, and hindsight is that great gift that we've all got to be able to kind of pull apart and criticize what we've done. But if we were to go and do it all again, we may do it exactly the same way, just because we were wired the way we were wired. I'm kind of rambling, but anyway, there were some things in my 20s that I never thought I would struggle with in my 40s. But I got to my 40s only to realize that I still struggled with them. I still had the same kind of issues. And that was a bit of a surprise for me in some ways, because I thought some things would just naturally just go away, naturally kind of disappear, if you know what I mean. Like fear of failure, that kind of horrible sense that you are going to fail at something and it's going to make you look stupid, and therefore you probably shouldn't even bother trying. And I must admit, I've always been able to stand against that and do it anyway. I've had that kind of like drive to be like, well, I'm going to do it anyway. And so I've done it anyway, but that feeling of like fear of failure, that feeling of like, I can't do this, I don't want to do it, this hurts to do this, I thought that would be totally gone in my 40s. I thought I'd be so done with that. Partially because you have loads of history to show that actually you don't always fail. You've got loads of history to show that there are a lot of things that work out just fine. And so you've actually got kind of physical evidence to prove your own fears wrong. But even so, that feeling seems to be there. And and I thought, surely that I'll be done with that now. But that has been just as prominent in my life. That feeling, that fear has been just as prominent in my life in my 40s as it was in my 20s. And I never, ever in a million years would have thought that would be the case. But it is there still. I don't really know where it comes from, because a lot of people could, you know, as they could with your life, I'm sure, they could look at the things that you've achieved and they would be like, how could you ever be worried about not succeeding because you've succeeded in so many areas? This is absurd. That fear of failure is still there and prominent in our lives so often. And I guess the only thing I've been able to do is realize that I can take that fear and I can put it kind of in a box, or I don't even need to kind of spend too much time thinking about it, because my experience has been that if I push into those fears, if I push into that fear of failure and actually go ahead and do the thing that I don't think I'm going to be able to do, it usually turns out that I can do it. It usually turns out quite well. So I've been able to kind of, I guess that's the main thing that's changed, is that I've been able to kind of push back at that feeling more now than ever before. but the feeling is still there, and the fear of failure is still there just as much as when I was in my 20s. And I honestly thought it would be long gone by now. I thought it would be an old story that I look back on and be able to kind of say some wise words about. But no, the fear of failure, 100% is still in my life, 100%. But I still do it. I still go against it. I still fight it. I still move towards it, and instead of retreating from it. And I guess that's the thing that's changed the most, is that I have some evidence to show that it kind of turns out okay. And even if you do fail really badly, it's not like the end of the world. You can kind of get up and carry on anyway. The other thing that's been massive in my life is kind of fearing what other people think. And that's been nasty. I thought, again, in my 20s that it would not be something that I would be concerned about in my 40s. Why would I care about what people think? Surely you get to the stage in your life where it doesn't matter what other people think of you. But no, it does. And you still have that fear. I've still had that fear of like, well, what do people think of me? Now, I've quite often tried to pick it apart and figure out why I feel like that, and what's happened in my life to make me feel like that, and to fear what other people think. And I think it might, I don't know, it might be nothing to do with this, but this is the stuff that goes through my mind. I had a brilliant time at school, secondary school, made some amazing friends, had a lot of fun, but I decided to leave school after my GCSEs. It was before you had to do kind of mandatory education until you're 18. Because I played the drums. All I wanted to do was play the drums. I wanted to leave school and play drums and tour the world. That was all I wanted to do. And I kind of had this opportunity to leave school and go and play drums semi-professionally from the age of like 16. So I was a pretty good drummist back in the day. And I thought, this is going to be my life. And eventually it took me out to Scandinavia when I was just turned 20. And I ended up touring out there, Sweden, Norway, Denmark. Met my wife, Lillian, in Norway. I just felt like I was living the dream. I made the best decision of my life, right? And then I met Lillian, and we kind of settled down and realized, you know, she got pregnant quite early, and our son Joshua came along, and there was just no way that I could carry on just kind of playing drums and touring around and doing my thing. It wouldn't work with family life. So I was like, oh man, I need to go and get a regular job. And I did some drum teaching as well, but I went and got a regular job. And then I realized that I was kind of a bit of a victim of my choices. We always are. We're victims of our choices. Of course we are, for good and bad. And I realized that I've got no education, no nothing. I haven't got the time to be able to go back, you know, to uni and stuff, because we needed money to be able to support a little family, and so it was just off to work I went. Fortunately for me, I realized that I really love the business side of things as well, and just started kind of small enterprises really early in my 20s, and have continued to do that until today. Start small to medium-sized enterprises, get them up and running, make things work, and that's been my life really for 20 years, more, 25 years. And I've loved that, it's been great. My passion for learning kind of came about in my mid-20s, which I didn't have in my teens. I still did fine at school, but I didn't enjoy learning that much. It was a means to an end. Whereas I suddenly became obsessed with reading, and I read just about everything I can get my hands on, studied all kinds of stuff from theology to, you name it, all kinds of things. Really, really interested me. But this fear of what other people think of you never really left. So, and I wonder why that was. I remember my mum, when I told her, we were driving home one day, I said to my mum, I'm not going to do my A-levels. I'm going to go play the drums. And she was like, no, you're not. You're going to go do your A-levels. I said, no, I'm definitely not doing that. She stopped the car and chucked me out of the car. She said, you're getting out of the car now. You're walking home and you're going to think about this. And I was like, all right, I'll walk home and I'll think about it, but I'm not changing my mind. And so anyway, I walked home and I thought about it and I didn't change my mind. I carried on doing what I wanted to do. And that kind of upset my mum, but she was the kind of person that was like, okay, this is what you're going to do, I'm going to support it. And so she just got behind me 100% and just supported me in what I wanted to do. But I think deep down she was a bit upset that I didn't go down the kind of the further education route, university, all that kind of stuff. And I sometimes wonder whether, you know, I can turn up in a situation, and even though I may have read 5 times the amount on the subject that we're talking about as the person I'm meeting with, but because they went to uni and studied it, I kind of get this feeling like, oh man, I'm nowhere near as smart as you. I'm a bit stupid, you know. So you can have this feeling, I've had this feeling that, oh, I'm not smart enough, not clever enough, whatever it might be. And it's so stupid. And I thought, when I was in my 20s and I had those feelings, I definitely thought that in my 40s, I will not experience those feelings or those fears. But oh my gosh, massively. Fear of what other people think, comparing yourself to other people, comparison, looking at other people and automatically assuming that they are just light years ahead of you, smarter than you, better than you, more capable than you. Man, that's followed me all over the place. And I know I meet loads of other people and they have exactly the same feelings, in their 40s as well. Successful people, looking around and thinking, oh, everyone else seems to have kind of pulled it off better than me. And, you know, so what do I do about that? Well, again, I don't let it stop me. And sometimes my comparison or fear of what other people think is actually more to do with me judging them. It's more to do with me thinking that that person has some kind of, not evil intent towards me, but some negative thought towards me and thinks something negative about me. And that's me projecting that onto them. And it's like, that's really bad, actually. That's me assuming something about somebody else and thinking that they are actually a little bit of a bad person and thinking something bad about me when they shouldn't be. And the truth is, if somebody does think something bad about you, hey, you can't stop that. Maybe that's something they're going through. Maybe that's something they're feeling. Maybe that's a problem that they've got. It's not your problem. The comparison thing, you got to push into that. You can't let it stop you from pushing into the things you want to push into. It's starting to get really wet here. I'm going to turn around and go back the other way. That was 14 minutes of straight talking. Oh my gosh, that's too much talking. It's just too much talking. I am absolutely freezing now. My face is like red. I need to go and get some bits for my motorcycle because the Thunderbird has been struggling recently. Thanks for joining me on a ramble, both a rambling walk and a load of words. I hope they've been of some help to somebody. I'm not trying to offer advice or anything like that. Just a little bit about my life, really. So, and this has been something, you know, talk about fear of failure. I've been putting off, just doing a bit of a kind of a vlog type thing like this for so long because I'm afraid of what people will think. Who cares what I have to say about anything? So, but I thought, I'm gonna do it anyway, and I'm just gonna stick it on the channel. I think about stuff all the time, probably like you. Think about things all the time, have opinions about things, concerns about things, particularly concerns about stuff to do with guys in their 40s and guys in general, not just in your 40s, but guys in general. I don't think it's the easiest time to be alive for a guy. I know there's a lot of people that might really disagree with me on that. I don't think it is. I think it's a challenging time, and a time where we have to be really, really careful what we say. And you should be careful what you say, of course you should. But you should not be so careful about what you say that you never say anything. Because then you will end up just curling up into a little ball in the corner and not saying anything to anybody because you're afraid of what they will think. You're afraid of failure. You compare yourself to them, or you feel that you might be shut down in some way, that you, and it's no way to live. It's no way to live. And I think us guys, we need each other. We need community. We need friendships. We need those we can confide in. And I've got some things I want to say about that as well. That'll be for another episode, about the importance of friendship and what a friendship should really mean. And some of the functions of a good friendship. They are really, really important, apart from just having a good laugh, which we need to do a lot of. Thanks so much for joining me in the not sunny at all Weston-super-Mare, but still beautiful. I love this little town. I'll see you next time.